before ABS-CBN confirmed the buy-in, lawmaker Rodante Marcoleta called on the NTC and the PCC to investigate the transaction, which was then rumored as a joint venture. Let's get the thoughts now of former member of the House Legislative Franchises Committee and the convener of Infrawatch PH, Teddy Ridon. Teddy, thank you so much for joining us. All right, a lot of question marks raised by some lawmakers and other agencies about this deal between ABS and TV5. Let's take a look first at Congress. Is there a basis for Congress to intervene in this deal?
Well, Congress can basically do whatever it wants. No, it can investigate until tomorrow. But I think the question to Congress today is whether or not this involves a franchise issue. And Congress can only intervene on franchise issues if we are talking about a transfer of controlling shares. But because ABS-CBN is only buying around 35% of TV5, this is not a transfer of controlling shares. So when we speak about franchises, Congress approval is only important for a transfer of majority shares, no, or controlling stakes in all of these regulated franchises.
All right.
But because this is,
Teddy, Representative Rodante Marcoleta in the 18th Congress was part of this group that basically called for the non-renewal of the franchise of ABS-CBN and is now at the forefront calling for this investigation. How influential do you think is he with the House Speaker Martin Romualdez to look into this franchise issue or into this deal?
Well, I have high hopes, with the new speaker, Speaker Martin Romualdez, that there are other more important public concerns which Congress ought to focus on at this point. Congress at the moment is focusing on the budget. We are talking about economic recovery. We're talking about social programs. I'm quite certain that the new speaker, who has been calling for economic recovery for the last few weeks, will most definitely focus on all of these things and not on another round of what I could say persecution by several members of Congress on ABS-CBN.
But
nanalo na sila nung nakaraan.
That's right.
Tanggapin na nila na medyo may pagkatalo sila ngayon.
But could Marcoleta also ask Congress to look into the TV5 franchise?
Well, like what I said, congressmen can basically file all the resolutions that they would want. But it is a question on whether or not the majority of Congress will agree with Congressman Marcoleta and proceed with the investigating the TV5 ABS-CBN deal.
What about on the issue of competition, a possible violation of the antitrust law? Teddy?
Well, I think the more important question on competition is whether or not TV5 is the dominant player in the broadcast sector. And as what we had seen in the last few years, TV5 has only been number 3. So I'm quite certain that we are not talking about an abuse of a dominant position here. And they also can say that ABS-CBN is the dominant player at this point because they've lost their franchise in 2020. And correspondingly, by losing their franchise, they had lost their status as the dominant market player in the broadcast sector in 2020. So all of these questions on competition, I think both parties, TV5 and ABS-CBN, can obviously voluntarily subject themselves to a check with the Competition Commission on whether or not there might be a breach of competition. But again,
Teddy, before they signed and sealed this deal, should they have not consulted first with the Philippine Competition Commission and asked for their consent?
I don't think the consent is necessary, prior to any transactions. But we are talking about a review, But we are talking also about whether or not the deal breaches threshold amounts. Pero what we had seen is, I think it doesn't involve the threshold amount that requires a compulsory review by the Competition Commission. Well,
right.
I'd say that obviously because this is of great public interest, maybe they can voluntarily submit themselves to a competition check,
All right.
with the Philippine Competition Commission.
All right, we talked about Congress. We talked about the PCC. What about the National Telecommunications Commission? Can they block this deal if both sides do not submit the required documents and do not meet certain standards?
Well, the NTC has been complaining that ABS-CBN had certain issues, no, with Congress in the past Congress, and there were certain findings. But I'd like to see what findings the NTC is talking about. Kasi when we are talking about the tax issues, I think this has already been resolved. This has already been responded to by ABS-CBN, that there are no tax liabilities in the last few years. Ano? So I think the NTC, if it is quite serious about wanting to really block this transaction, I think they should provide more information as to the basis on why they would block this transaction between TV5 and ABS-CBN. But I think the most important point is that this is a spectacular coup by ABS-CBN. No? They have been pushed to their knees in 2020, but they had believed in themselves, they had believed in the quality of their content, and they're back again to provide news, to provide production, and to provide content through a different form, and through TV5, essentially.
Terry, thank you so much for your insights. Terry Ridon is a convener of Infrawatch PH and former member of the House Legislative Franchises Committee.